Do have some breaking news to bring you now because we have learned that Ozzy Osbourne, the heavy metal star known as the Prince of Darkness, really the godfather of heavy metal, Black Sabbath frontman, has died at the age of 76. This was, of course, just weeks after he reunited with his Black Sabbath bandmates and performed a huge farewell concert for fans at Villa Park, the homecoming for them, really, their home city. He, of course, had a successful career with Black Sabbath, a successful solo career, and, of course, the reality TV career that he had as well, along with his wife, Sharon Osbourne. We have got a statement through from his family as well. They have said, "It is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time." That Osbourne family statement signed by Sharon, his wife, and then his children as well, Jack, Kelly, Amy and Louis. So that news coming into us now, that the Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. He pioneered heavy metal, really, with Black Sabbath before going on to have that huge success in his own right. Some of his hits, Iron Man, Paranoid, War Pigs, Crazy Train, Changes, both with the band Black Sabbath, but also as a solo star as well. So someone who really kind of pioneered that heavy metal music, really seen as, I guess, one of the kind of founding fathers of it in so many ways, known as the Prince of Darkness as well. And then a new generation was introduced to Ozzy Osbourne too, a different kind of fame, thanks to that MTV reality show, The Osbournes, so famous in the noughties. And of course, it followed his, I think it's fair to say, somewhat chaotic life in Los Angeles, alongside his wife Sharon and two of their children, Kelly and Jack as well. He was known, of course, for his hell-raising during his rock star days, of course. A very, very charismatic frontman on the stage, but also, of course, for his musical gifts and talents as a frontman of Black Sabbath, and then also with his solo career. He was on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, as well as the one in Birmingham as well, his home city. He made that one-off surprise appearance on stage in Birmingham to close the Commonwealth Games in 2022. But just so recently, just early this month, that Villa Park gig where he performed on stage alongside others from Black Sabbath, a kind of farewell tour, if you like, really. His wife Sharon said at the time that he was determined to give his fans the perfect farewell. He was entered onto the UK Music Hall of Fame and also the US Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for both, of course, his performances with Black Sabbath, but also as a solo artist. And he has that coveted star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame as well. So many Grammy wins, so many nominations, Enemy's Godlike Genius Award, Classic Rock's Living Legend Prize. Just some of the accolades that Ozzy Osbourne managed to be showered with over his long career at the forefront of the music industry, and really that pioneering sense that he had, defining heavy metal for so many people, the Prince of Darkness in Black Sabbath as well. I should say he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 2019 as well, so he did have his own health issues that he had been battling with too. And as frontman of Black Sabbath, of course, he really defined, if you like, that kind of charisma, the being on the edge, I guess, the performance of heavy metal music that so many people try to emulate after him. Just want to read you again the family statement that we've had through. So this is from the family of Ozzy Osbourne. They've said in the statement, "It is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We asked everyone to respect our family privacy at this time, And then it's signed by Sharon, Jack, Kelly, Amy and Louis. His wife Sharon, of course, who has forged that reality TV career with him as well, and of course was very involved, I should say too, with his music career as well, in her own right, you know, as that kind of management side of things. And also his children, two of whom rose to fame in the noughties with that groundbreaking reality TV show, The Osbournes, as well. But for many people, it won't be for that he was necessarily remembered. It will be that theatrical stage presence. I mean, the one that I always remember is biting off the head of a bat on stage. I mean, that is something that you don't see every day, but I think it is that kind of going further than other people, doing more, taking more risks, being more, I guess, the embodiment of the heavy metal genre that he shaped in so many ways. He styled himself, of course, as the Prince of Darkness, and really grew into this persona as this kind of controversial but groundbreaking figure in the music scene. I just want to bring in Emma Birchley, if I may, at this point. Emma, this very sad news that Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. What do we know?
Well, there's been a statement from his family. As you read a short time ago, it is with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. We ask everyone to respect our family privacy at this time, and it's signed Sharon, Jack, Kelly, Amy and Louis. You have to remember that it was only, in fact, 2.5 weeks ago that he appeared at Villa Park in a show, a vast show that was called Back to the Beginning, billed as the final bow. It had been organised by his wife, the idea of his wife, Sharon Osbourne, and it saw him appearing on stage, rising up from a black throne with bejewelled skulls. In tears, he told the crowd, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart," because in 2023, because of his health, he had to cancel shows, which he was incredibly unhappy about doing. And so this concert just a couple of weeks ago, with stars from the world of hard rock who cited him as an enormous influence in their own career. There was the likes of Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Youngblood, and the concert also included tributes from other celebrity friends and fans, the likes of Billy Idol, Ricky Gervais, Dolly Parton and Sir Elton John. They were played on screen. But this is a man who admitted that for decades he was addicted to drink and drugs, and a man who'd had several years of health problems and in recent years, Parkinson's disease. And actually the profits from that show were being shared between Cure Parkinson's, Birmingham Children's Hospital and Acorns Children's Hospice. He made his name, of course, back in 1968 with Black Sabbath, and went on to become one of the most successful bands, metal bands of all time. They sold more than 75 million albums worldwide over the years, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2006. He eventually was sacked, but then came back as a solo artist. And he was awarded a Lifetime Ivor Novello Songwriting Award in 2015. This is a man who's had an enormous influence on so many people. And of course, even if you weren't into the music, you may well have known him because he and his family appeared in a reality show, which showed that real clash between the life in LA and that very British family in some ways, and that had huge numbers of viewers and really made the whole family famous. His wife, of course, going on to be one of the judges on different music talent shows and becoming as famous, really, herself in more recent years. But Ozzy Osbourne, at the age of 76, very sadly dying after being ill for a long time.
Emma, thank you very much indeed. Emma Birchley there, just giving some more detail on the life of someone who really defined so much. I feel like he was such a pioneer in terms of music with the way that he exemplified kind of heavy metal. He was so rock and roll in some ways, you know, the kind of Prince of Darkness, attracting a legion of heavy rock fans and selling all of those albums, as Emma was saying there, really defining the whole heavy metal genre. And then in some ways defining the reality TV genre as well to a whole new generation of fans, probably quite different, I should say, as well, from, you know, the music fans who adored Ozzy Osbourne for his work in Black Sabbath and then as a solo star as well. And then this new generation who became hooked on the very, very successful reality show, The Osbournes, with him and his wife Sharon, and then their 2 children as well, really pushing the boundaries on what reality TV could be. He was a man who I think always gave it his all and had that kind of vulnerability, perhaps, alongside this pioneering ability to kind of go to the extreme, to do more than other people, to push the boundaries more than other people as well. But the heavy metal star Ozzy Osbourne dying just weeks after reuniting with his Black Sabbath bandmates and performing that huge farewell concert for fans at Villa Park, so close, of course, to his own city, where he is from originally, there in Birmingham. He's saying at the time, when he was telling the crowd, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart," as he performed from a throne, very fittingly, I think, on stage at Villa Park. It was a gig put together with performances from some of his favourite acts as well, Metallica and Guns N' Roses too. And it was seen as a farewell to fans. Tragic in some ways, of course, that he has died so soon after that concert. But in other ways, it may be that he would have seen it as fitting that he did have the opportunity to say farewell to his fans, to the people who loved his music, to the people who made him such a success. A man who pioneered heavy metal with Black Sabbath and then going on to have huge success in his own right as well, making it in the States too, and becoming, of course, enrolled in the Hollywood Walk of Fame too. His family saying today that he died surrounded by love. Well, I'm joined now by the music journalist, Matt Charlton, to discuss this a bit more, to talk a little bit more about the influence that Ozzy Osbourne had. Thank you so much for being with us. Can you just talk about the impact that Ozzy Osbourne had on music and also, of course, particularly on heavy metal?
Yeah, he was just called a pioneer, and he's not just a pioneer because not many people can claim to have invented a whole genre of music, and that's what him and Black Sabbath did. Heavy metal simply didn't exist before Black Sabbath started playing. The name came from when they were touring America, and it came from a bad review saying their music sounded like heavy metal clanking against each other. And they thought, well, why not? Okay, let's take that and run with it. And so a whole genre was born in the early 70s that gave us, well, we probably wouldn't have stuff like Guns N' Roses and Metallica, all the stuff that followed, all that long hair, dark rock that followed from heavy metal through to hair rock, through to 80s rock, wouldn't have happened without Ozzy.
That's amazing. I didn't know that about the name heavy metal coming from that incident. Yeah. That's that review. What a wonderful bit of anecdote there. And I guess, do you feel that shows their slightly rebellious side, that they're almost kind of happy to butt up against the establishment and to kind of take on the detractors?
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of rock and roll, and it always has been. But it shows that ability, it shows their humour about themselves too. They always had a humour about themselves, especially Ozzy. It shows his ability to make lemonade out of lemons, and to run with something. But they knew what they had, and they knew that they should just push through with what they were doing, and it would catch on. And the weird thing about heavy metal is it still isn't necessarily mainstream, despite the concert we saw the other week, despite the worldwide sales, but it is everywhere, and there's a huge community around it, and that all comes from Black Sabbath.
Yeah, it's incredible to think, like you say, I use the word pioneer, but you're right, it's not actually, I guess, sufficient to describe the influence that he had in creating this whole genre of music as well. He also had a lot of success in his solo career as well, we should say, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. When he left Black Sabbath, he left a few times. Obviously, it's one of those sort of Spinal Tap bands that they lose members, they gain members, always changing. And yes, he span out into a hugely successful solo career. And then, of course, we are talking about him being a pioneer. He was a pioneer in reality TV too, and that's what a whole generation also first met him through was the Osbournes. The Osbournes reality TV show, him and his family, the whole him walking around the house calling Sharon's name, it spawned several impressions around the world. So he was a pioneer in that too. He was one of the first sort of rock and roller celebrities to let the cameras in his home like that. And it really gave MTV, which was a flagging network at the time, a massive lift and put him into the minds of a whole new generation too, which then went on to discover his music and not see him as this ridiculous guy in a big house in Bel Air, but a true brilliant musician that he was.
Yeah, and I feel like you say, when you were talking about that story about the, taking that bad review with heavy metal and showing that it had a bit of sense of humour, that also came through, I felt, that kind of wry sense of humour that he had in the reality programme too. I'm interested in his relationship with his wife, because she was obviously the successful music manager as well, and then, of course, by his side during that reality TV programme that you were talking about as well.
Yeah, and Sharon is a very, very savvy businesswoman, always has been, took him under her wing, and I guess really pushed him through some very difficult times that he was having with drug addiction. She really pulled him along and made his career keep going and kept him in the public consciousness. And I guess the reality show was part of that. And then they became this very famous power couple in the early noughties, and obviously then she went on to the X Factor and things like that. But yeah, she was the woman behind the man and pushed his career along, and they made a fantastic couple.
Yeah, and a family man as well, which has come through in that statement too. So he talked to me a bit about his stage persona, because for many people this is how they're going to remember Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness. The bat is obviously, the famous story, isn't it? The infamous bat.
Yeah, and that frames the whole persona, because it was pantomime, and it was both pantomime and it was serious, because the music wasn't comedy music, it wasn't novelty music, it was very serious music. But building that whole show, that whole aesthetic around that music was incredibly theatrical too. And just you mentioned that he popped out of the stage on a leather throne the other week at the concert. With, I think it had a bejeweled bat sitting on one of the arms too. So he always knew how to make a show. It's a lesson that he'd learned from all his favourite bands in the 1960s, is to get on there, make a show, make them remember you, even if the reviews are terrible. If the reviews are terrible, take something good from that and run with that. So it's all about the theatre with heavy metal. And as I said, all these bands, all these massive 80s bands would not exist with their kind of showmanship without the trail that he blazed with that.
And some of them, of course, involved in this big farewell tour that happened, just a matter of weeks ago, right, at Villa Park. Mm.
Yeah, Metallica, I'm reading the list now. Metallica, Slayer, Guns N' Roses, Tool, Anthrax, Pantera, Alice in Chains. Just this who's who of that world. And it obviously showed what a debt they owed to him, how much they looked up to him, to come to that one show and say thank you. And as you were saying earlier, the way that this has happened, you often hear about people retiring and then, just letting go afterwards. It feels almost like when David Bowie left us and went back to his home planet, that it felt almost orchestrated, and it felt like he knew that it was coming. So this was the big farewell and thank you to his fans, to his music, and to his city. And it was Birmingham that made him, and Birmingham that remained in his affections for forever throughout his life.
Yeah, it's quite moving, actually, isn't it? Sharon announced the Villa Park gig earlier this year. He said that Ozzy was determined to give fans the perfect farewell, and then on the stage, he said, "You've no idea how I feel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." There's something quite poignant about the fact he was there, at Villa Park, in a city that meant so much to him. As you say, I mean, orchestrated, we don't know, do we? But it feels very fitting, doesn't it?
It does, and it's a city that meant a lot to him, and he meant a lot to the city, and you could see that outpouring of love in the room that night, and they just held him in such high esteem, and it helped put Birmingham on the map. It's pretty much, I mean, sorry to Birmingham, it's pretty much him and Duran Duran. That are the two big bands, very opposite on the scale, but the way that he encapsulated that, because Birmingham has given birth to this dark music that Birmingham's given birth to, because it's a factory town, and that's the background that he came from too, like working class, dark grit factory, and he always reflected that in his music, and it never really left him. So to do that farewell there, and we knew it was a farewell of sorts at the time, but we were talking about the theatricality earlier as well. Maybe this is his last bit of theatricality, that big farewell.
It feels absolutely right, doesn't it? And as you say there, just to pick up and emphasise what you're saying there, the fact that Birmingham meant so much to him. He may be associated for so many of us with that kind of glitzy Hollywood life, with a reality TV programme and the big house, but, he came from working class roots with, his factory working and tool making, parents, and then leaving school at 15. As well, a city that meant so much to him. I should say that one of the MPs for that city, Shabana Mahmood, member of the government as well, of course, the Justice Secretary, has tweeted to say an honour to have celebrated the extraordinary life and legacy of Ozzy Osbourne just weeks ago. Devastated to hear the news of his death today. One of the greatest gifts my city gave the world. My thoughts are with his family. In Ozzy's own words, Birmingham forever. And, as you were saying as well, it does really reflect that this is a city that meant an awful lot to him.
Yeah, and there's a couple of communities mourning. There's Birmingham, there's the Black Country, and there's the whole heavy metal community around the world, which is really actually very tight knit and not as scary as they look. It's a very supportive and very joined up community, and that is going to be hopefully a huge lift to the family, who obviously have asked for privacy, and that's completely understandable, but hopefully they will feel that wave of love and gratitude that will come from all around the world, every corner. I mean, metal has spread all over the world. Let's talk about, AC/DC, for instance, came from Melbourne, I think. Sorry. Well, it certainly came from Australia anyway. So it goes down there, goes to South America, it obviously goes to North America. So the love will come from everywhere, and the gratitude will come from everywhere. And I don't think that there'll be any doubt of what he meant to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's really important to say that. I actually, I don't know if you were a heavy metal fan yourself, but I certainly went through, a period as a teenager where I absolutely loved it. And I was really, I didn't ever see Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne, I should say, but certainly some of the bands that you're mentioning there as being so influenced by it. And as you say, it is actually like a very supportive community too.
And drawing the logo on your school books and stuff like that is what you
exactly. All the badges and
those paint pens on a canvas bag and all that sort of stuff.
You're taking me back now. You really are.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. And that never left him either. By the way, as you said, he moved to LA, had this Bel Air mansion, had a lot of money, obviously, but he never dropped that accent, and he could have done. He lived away from Birmingham for long enough for that accent to disappear if he wanted it to, but he never let go of his roots, and he never stopped dressing in black with purple sunglasses, and he never stopped doing the Sign of the Beast when he could and all that sort of stuff. So he was faithful to that way of life to the end.
Yeah, he certainly was, wasn't he? And such a showman, as you say, too. Just talk me through, some of the kind of musical innovations that he did. Were there any big albums, any big songs that you think will always, define Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne himself?
Well, the one that's going to be ringing out around the world tonight is probably Paranoid. That's the one I was saying that heavy metal is not necessarily a mainstream thing, but it is. That's the one that is going to be ringing around the world tonight, and also the song that became the theme tune of the Osbournes too, albeit in a swing style that was very amusing, Changes, which is a song he did as a solo artist, and then he later did a duet actually with his daughter Kelly with the same song. That's quite a poignant song because it was obviously very heavy rock the majority of the time, but he did have his softer moments. This is a man who was a huge fan of the Beatles, for instance, in the 60s. And when he finally got to meet Paul McCartney not that long ago, 20 years ago, he said a big thank you to him because I don't think he would have picked up a guitar without him. So he liked his softer moments as well, his quieter songs, his more introspective moments.
Yeah, I think we can hear a little bit of the man himself. I'm hoping that we should be able to play you one of those songs that we were just talking about there, Paranoid.